Hi, my name is Garrett, and I'm a project consultant for August Roofing and Solar. Today we're going to be looking at an inspection I did in Pacific Palisades.
Hi, this is Garrett, taking a look at a tile roof. Roof is approximately 15 years old, and so homeowner is just looking to have some maintenance done. He had it fumigated recently. He's aware of a couple broken tiles.
When they're fumigating a home, they have to walk on the roof. They may break a few tiles in the process just by walking on it. Also, if you just happen to notice cracked or slipped tiles on your roof, that's a good reason to call as well. Super important to have your roof inspected after you have any work done that requires a different contractor to walk on the roof.
This is really just important things to kind of look at as far as maintaining a tile roof, whether it's concrete or clay. Over the years, tiles breaking and cracking.
Even just like when you look at the tile right here, you can kind of tell that the reason it broke was from foot traffic. Someone had kind of stepped right in the middle of the tile as opposed to walking on kind of where the tiles overlap. Whenever you're stepping on tiles, super important to walk where the tiles overlap so you have more support. If you're stepping directly in the middle of the tile, it's kind of like a hollow cavity underneath it. There's nothing really there to support. Also, when you look at a concrete tile, that's basically the thinnest part of the tile. If you're looking at the top and the bottom, it has these like lugs that pretty much weigh it down, and it's the weather blocker on the bottom of the tile. That's why if someone walks on your roof, it's really easy for someone to break the tile. They were probably having to go up and down on the roof when they're doing the fumigation. They do tent the home usually, and so you have to walk on the roof. If these were left unaddressed, what would eventually happen is water's just getting into the underlayment through the cracks of the tile. As water's running on the underlayment, it'll eventually find points where it could break through, even if it's like a newer underlayment, whether it's like nail heads or flashings, different things like that.
A couple of these here, so it looks like about 5 completely smashed tiles. I won't disturb it too much realistically, maybe just try to push some of these back into place, because what you don't want to have happen is leaving your underlayment exposed, because what happens is the sun will start beating down on it and causing it to crack and start to peel away, and the fact that you have the openings, if it rains, water is going to be running on your underlayment, which accelerates the process of wearing it down. Right here you can see we have a tile that was slipped.
When you look at this tile, you can see that it's kind of slipped down. That more so is less to do with the fumigation and more so to do with the fact that the fastener is not holding it down anymore. You can see the nail holes in the tile. Whenever you have a concrete tile, it has like 2 holes that are manufacturer made for nailing. And so since I can see the nail holes, I know that it's not really being held down by anything. Generally, when I'm doing a roof inspection, if I do need to see what the underlayment looks like to get an idea of the condition, I will look for tiles that are slipped down like this and pull it down and get a good assessment of what the underlayment condition is. When it comes to tile, there's a 3-inch headlap minimum that we're looking for. Oftentimes when I'm doing an inspection, I'll know exactly how big the tile is. Generally it's like 17 inches on a concrete tile like this. I'll measure the exposure, and so I'll measure how much of the tile I can actually see. And if it's 14 inches exactly, that tells me that there's a 3-inch headlap on the tile. If it was 15 inches when I measured it, I would know that the headlap is too short. The reason why the headlap is super important, and it's especially on lower sloped roofs, is that water is able to kind of wick behind the tiles if it doesn't have that proper overlap. But right here, this is just the ideal thing that I would see to get an idea of the condition of the underlayment.
We pull this down, we can see the underlayment, which you can tell it kind of still has some life in it. It looks like just like a standard paper-based underlayment, and you can kind of still see the asphalt, the kind of sticky tar in it.
Right here I say this is a paper-based underlayment. What we generally install as a company is a fiberglass based. The fiberglass based has more of a memory. If you were to take a square of it and you were to bend it up, it would remember to kind of try to lay flat, essentially. Paper-based, if you bend it, it often just gets cracked. Another issue that we commonly see with paper-based underlayment is kind of like curling. When it gets exposed to too much heat, we notice that it curls up kind of like a potato chip, realistically. It doesn't lay flat, it starts to pick up. Code minimum for tile roof is to have a number 30 weight paper-based underlayment. What we install is a 40 pound. And so 40 pound means just it's more weight in it, and so more asphalt in the product, essentially, which means more waterproofing. At the end of the day, asphalt's what waterproofs the roof. The tile is what protects it from like the sun and UV. All roofs, whether it's tile or shingles, are all trying to achieve the same thing. They just use different things to do it. With like a shingle roof, the granules in the shingle is what reflects the sun. For the tile roof, the tile is what is reflecting it. If you have a tile that slips down, you're losing that protection. It's just gonna allow the sun to cook that underlayment and eventually break through and expose the plywood, allow water to get underneath it, and then it works its way inside, and that's how you get a leak.
With a roof tune-up, what we're essentially doing is you have some tiles that are cracked, minor, it's chipped on the channel, but then you have tiles like these that are completely exposed. So what we basically come out to do is we'll replace all these cracked tiles, try to match this existing tile as best as possible. We're gonna come in here and replace these broken tiles, secure the loose one, any pipes that might need to be resealed. So this one right here, you can see a little bit of a crack. Coming in here doing those minor things. It's the kind of maintenance you want to do with a tile roof because realistically should last about 30 years. Anytime your home's worked on and people are on your roofs, just got to be very careful and keep a good lookout. If any tiles are cracked in the process, get those replaced immediately. So that's kind of just what we're doing here today, and it's good that the homeowner's being proactive.
For a roof tune-up like this on this home, we would complete that in like a day. It depends on the size of the roof ultimately and the amount of like broken tiles and how many pipes that we're resealing and stuff that really determines how long it will take. Another factor is if someone has a very fragile tile, we very well may be having to replace tiles that were cracking in the process as we're getting to replace the ones that are cracked, like a complicated clay tile roof or certain lightweight tiles. Ultimately, a roof tune-up is going to take a different amount of time depending on how big the home is and how many cracked tiles that we see. But the main thing to note with tune-ups is it's not actually addressing any of the waterproofing components of the home. It's all just to help prolong the life. Just to kind of compare it, if I were to look at his roof and I pulled out the tile and saw the underlayment was, completely shot, a tune-up here would make no sense in that case because it's just essentially trying to preserve the underlayment. And if there's nothing worth preserving, then the only real solution is actually replacing it. Something important to consider, especially if like your roof's 30 years old, a tune-up might not do the trick at the end of the day. That's why whenever I come out, I'll give you a full assessment of the roof and not just only replace the broken tiles if the underlayment's not good.
Quick and easy job, but it goes a long way. So that's my inspection.
So after I did my inspection on the roof, I also did a walk around the property just to see if I noticed anything else going on with the roof. And this one was super important.
I wanted to point out an interesting thing here. So a homeowner has a support beam here. It's holding up the overhang on the roof.
It's these different support beams that'll come out of the exterior, and these things are pretty big. They're usually they could be like 3x14 types of beams, just really big structural beams, and they extend past the roof line. It's an aesthetic decision that was made. They do serve a purpose in the fact that they are holding up that overhang on the roof. What happens a lot of times is that these beams will extend past and they're painted, and so that's kind of what seals them up. But over time, the paint starts to peel and break away because the sun's just beating down on it. Once the paint starts to peel away, it exposes the wood and it allows the moisture to get in there if it is raining. We try to catch these early on because the rot will start to accumulate like on the edge of the beam. And when they don't get addressed, essentially the rot can start to spread. Rot's kind of like a fungus. Whenever you don't address it or cut it out, it's gonna spread to different areas. With this homeowner, we're recommending chopping off the support beams to the edge of the roof so that it's all flush. If you catch this really early, another way that people can do it is they can put like a top flashing on it, which is basically like a sheet metal piece that wraps it. The main thing is to protect it from the elements, and if you're good on maintenance and you just keep it painted, keep it sealed, then that could be enough to not be an issue for you. But I know that we've seen it where it gets rotted beyond the point where it's supporting the edge of the roof, and then we're talking about a whole different thing where we're adding in all these different supports. We might have siding work involved if it is going into the home. Like in this case, there's not a lot of space there. One of the biggest things I'm always looking out for if I see a home with this type of design is that detail of if rot is there and if it's starting to spread. So you got to stop it before it spreads. The way that I will usually check for rot, what I would do is I would check the beam's integrity by applying pressure to different points of it. And if I feel a point where the wood is just like giving entirely, then I know that the rot spread to that far away point. Sometimes we catch it early enough to where we can just get it out of there before it spreads, but that's basically how I check for wood rot.
As far as replacing this beam, it goes into the interior. It's underneath all this framing. It's incredibly difficult to do. We've done it in the past where we add additional supports underneath, like those little 2x4s there. They're called outriggers.
So what we've done on other homes, we've added multiple smaller supports. They're called outriggers, essentially. We've used 2x4 or whatever type of lumber, and we've extended them out to the edge of the roof, and we do a couple of them all the way down it. In this case, if this beam was rotted, it all butts into the exterior wall, and so we'd have to probably cut into the exterior wall, get into the attic space. We're just talking about more work and more difficult to achieve that. The main thing is access when it comes down to like addressing this if the rot has spread beyond it. I've had people ask me like, can we just replace the beam? And we definitely can. It just is gonna be getting into all this where you have to get underneath all the roof framing, you have to open up exterior walls for something that, you know, if I notice it on the front end, we can at least just prevent that altogether. Super important to get roofs inspected all the time, especially since like if the rot were to spread, we're talking about a project that could go from $20,000 for the re-roof to all the way to $30,000. It can increase things dramatically. And so even if you don't have a leak inside your home that you see like in front of your face at the drywall, super important if you notice rot on the exterior to still get it checked out.
What we've also done is before the rot gets too bad, just cutting them flush with the fascia.
The biggest drawback that we see with cutting these support beams to the edge where the fascia is mostly aesthetic. You know, it's something that people really do like the look where it kind of comes out, kind of a craftsman type of style. And so when we have to cut them flush with the fascia, you lose that at the end of the day. If we can be preventative or add a top flashing, that's the best way to do it and ultimately make it to where you maintain that look that you want. Sometimes aesthetic and function, they don't always line up. And that's kind of the difficult thing, but we can plan for it and make it to where it works if we know before the rot starts to spread. I'll also point out that like in the neighborhood that I was in, it was a tract home neighborhood. You know, there's a lot of homes with similar designs and styles. I often, whenever I go into communities that I've been into multiple times, we see a lot of the issues that run parallel. It's the same builder on the home, typically the same roofing contractor if they subcontracted it out. Issues that come up are usually consistent with the different tract homes. Something to note, if you ever live in a tract home neighborhood and you have an issue, look to your neighbor. If you notice someone with the same layout, you might find that they had to figure out how to deal with the same problem. So just like this homeowner, if you suspect that your roof is in need of a tune-up or if you notice a leak, give August Roofing and Solar a call and one of our project consultants will come out and give you all the information you need to make the best decision for you and your home. Give us a call today.